What if I told you that one of heavy metal's wildest legends nearly lost it all, only to claw his way back and create an album that would redefine his career? Picture this: a man infamous for biting the head off a bat, spiraling through addiction and chaos, suddenly finds himself at rock bottom, convinced that his days in music are over. But just when it seems that darkness has won, a new chapter begins, one filled with unlikely friendships, outrageous pranks, and a creative rebirth that would produce some of the most iconic songs in rock history. Before we get started, be sure to hit the bell notification icon and put all notifications on. I hear from a lot of my subscribers that they don't even get notifications when I post my videos. I would greatly appreciate if you guys did that. Born John Michael Osbourne in 1948, Ozzy grew up in a working class family, dropped out of school at 15, and drifted through a string of dead-end jobs and petty crime before he found his calling in music. He soon joined forces with guitarist Tony Iommi, bassist geezer Butler, and drummer Bill Ward, forming Black Sabbath in 1968. The group's 1970 self-titled debut record didn't just launch the band, it arguably invented and also popularized heavy metal. Their sound, thunderous, doom-laden riffs, dark lyrics, and Ozzy's haunting vocals was unlike anything before. Albums like Paranoid, Master of Reality, and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath became blueprints for a new musical movement, even if the mainstream press was slow to catch up. By the mid-70s, Black Sabbath had achieved legendary status, but the darkness in their music was only mirrored by the chaos behind the scenes. Substance abuse and fraying relationships, especially between Ozzy and Iommi, led to a downward spiral. By 1979, after 8 studio albums and a mountain of excess, Ozzy was fired from the band, as his drinking and drug abuse had become impossible for the group to manage. At rock bottom, Ozzy was convinced that his career was over, and for months he was lost in a haze of drugs and despair. He recalled, "I got £96,000 for my share of the name, so I had locked myself away and spent 3 months doing coke and booze." But at the insistence of Black Sabbath's manager Don Arden, he convinced Ozzy to start a solo career, which included starting a new band that included the prodigiously talented guitarist Randy Rhoads, bassist Bob Daisley, as well as drummer Lee Kerslake, and keyboardist Don Airey. The result was 1980's Blizzard of Oz, a solo debut that exploded expectations. The album went multi-platinum, driven by tracks like Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley. Ozzy proved that he could not only survive without Black Sabbath, but thrive. The early 80s saw Ozzy flying high again with follow-ups like Diary of a Madman, but tragedy soon struck in 1982 when Randy Rhoads died in a plane crash. Despite the loss, Ozzy pressed on, cycling through band members and battling personal demons. The decade was a blur of platinum records, headlining grabbing antics, and stints in rehab. Sharon Osbourne became his manager, and in 1982, his wife, being credited by Ozzy and many others with saving his life. Throughout the 80s, Ozzy's solo records, Bark at the Moon, The Ultimate Sin, No Rest for the Wicked, kept him at the forefront of heavy metal, even as the genre evolved around him. He became both a survivor and a symbol, the Prince of Darkness, unpredictable, outrageous, but always compelling. By the time No More Tears arrived in 1991, Ozzy had already lived several lifetimes worth of drama and reinvention. The album marked another turning point, but everything leading up to it, Black Sabbath's shadowy birth, solo triumphs, personal loss, and relentless resilience, set the stage for one of heavy metal's most enduring icons. By the late 80s, Ozzy's band underwent some lineup changes. He parted with guitarist Jakey Lee in 1987, with him enlisting Zakk Wylde. Randy Castillo was on drums and John Sinclair on keyboards, as well as bassist Bob Daisley, who rejoined Ozzy's band after the two had a falling out in 1985. The lineup recorded what was 1988's No Rest for the Wicked, and it produced a few singles including Miracle Man and Crazy Babies, with the record going double platinum in the States. But once the album's recording was complete, Daisley was once again out, replaced by Osbourne's former Black Sabbath bandmate Geezer Butler for subsequent promotional tours. It was in August of '89 that Sharon claimed that Ozzy, in a haze of alcohol and drugs, tried to strangle her after returning home from the Moscow Music Peace Festival. She didn't press charges, and the incident led to Ozzy going to a 6-month rehabilitation program. He came out refreshed with a new hope for life, getting in shape physically, and getting to work with Zakk Wylde on the next album. As Ozzy turned his attention to his first album of the 90s, Wylde and Castillo and Sinclair stayed on, but the bass situation was a little more complicated. Initially, Ozzy began working on new material with bassist Terry Nails. Nails revealed to Sleaze Rocks that he worked with Ozzy and his band on the following songs, including Mama, I'm Coming Home, Desire, I Don't Want to Change the World, Zombie Stomp, Hellraiser, as well as some other stuff. As for why he didn't appear on No More Tears, he responded, "You didn't hear anything about Bob Daisley either. It says Mike Inez played on that album. He didn't." Daisley ended up playing all the bass parts, adding to song facts. I was called in. He had Michael Inez on bass, and Mike's a decent player. A lovely bloke, nice chap, but it wasn't sounding and feeling how Ozzy wanted it to. So I got the phone call. Despite Mike Inez playing on the promotional tour and appearing in the music videos, he did actually come up with the bass part for the title track. The demos of the songs that would become 1991's No More Tears were sent to virtually every producer in the industry. But Ozzy's label wasn't really a fan of what they had come up with. But there were two producers who liked what they heard. Dwayne Barron, who had previously produced the LA Guns album Cocked and Loaded, and John Purdell, who had produced, engineered, and mixed Britney Fox's album Bite Down Hard. In an odd turn, the production duo actually got fired from the label that they'd been working with for expressing their interest in working with Ozzy after his recent arrest for attempted murder. Dwayne told Metal Hammer, "The record company called me at the studio to ask what my thoughts were on the demos. Well, I liked them a lot and thought it was a good direction. They hung up so fast, they hated it, and so we got fired." Rick Rubin also took an interest in working with Ozzy on the album, but when Zakk Wylde went to the producer's house, he told him, "Zakk, this is like a horrendous Motley Crue record. What we really need is some of that Sabbath Bloody Sabbath riff." Wylde responded, "You know I'm on board. The only problem is you've got to get the main guy on board. It's his band." Ozzy, for his part, though, wasn't having it, and Barron and Purdell got the job of producing the album. Working without the influence of a label was also liberating for Ozzy, and they approached the project with the mindset that every song should be written, arranged, and produced for radio play. Ozzy told his band, recalling in his book I Am Ozzy, "Look, we have to treat every song like it would be a hit single, but without being too hokey or try hard." Despite attempting to write an album for mass consumption, the subject matter was actually quite dark. Perhaps nothing was darker than something I can't even mention on YouTube that was tackled in the song Mr. Tinker Train, while serial killers are tackled on the title track. The album also contained one of Ozzy's biggest hits of his career, Mama, I'm Coming Home. I'm coming home. Ozzy had this song in his head for years. He revealed in the liner notes for the 1997 compilation, The Ozman Cometh, "I had been walking around with the melody in my head for a couple of years, but never got a chance to finish it until I was working with Zakk on No More Tears album. At that time, Zakk and I were doing a lot of writing on the piano. Mama, I'm Coming Home was always something I'd say on the phone to my wife near the end of the tour." Told me lies, but I can't stand to say goodbye. It wasn't the only time Ozzy referenced Sharon in his music, as he had written about her on the 1981 song Flying High Again and 2001's Running Out of Time. Wylde told Metal Hammer, "Mama, I'm Coming Home was actually written on the piano. One day I was out driving Ozzy when I had to go by the house, this rundown place with grass 5 feet high, shutters hanging off, beat down piece of shit. We pulled onto the driveway and Ozzy grabs me and says, 'Sharon's paying you, isn't she?' I broke up laughing. Anyways, we went into the apartment and I got the piano there, so we ended up sitting at it, coming up with the riff for Mama, I'm Coming Home." Another important piece of the puzzle was Lemmy from Motorhead. Aside from the chorus of Mama, I'm Coming Home, which Ozzy wrote, Lemmy wrote the rest of the ballad. The song was meant to be about Ozzy realizing that he needed to sober up, otherwise he'd face a grim future. It was underlined by his love of Sharon, who had given him so many second chances. Lemmy worked with Ozzy and helped him shape his ideas of the song into something poetic and really beautiful. Ozzy remarked how Lemmy was able to perfectly sum up his own feelings better than he could. I could be wrong, it hurts so bad, it's been so long. Lemmy also helped pen the track Hellraiser, Desire, and I Don't Want to Change the World for the album. Their collaboration came easily as they considered each other best friends. I Don't Want to Change the World even won a Grammy for Best Metal Performance when it was issued on Ozzy's 1993 album, Live and Loud. I Don't Want to Change the World also had an interesting origin. It started as a go-go style riff that Wild had come up with in response to a strip club that was right down the street from the recording studio. Ozzy really liked the guitar parts, so they worked it into the song with the lyrics redone by Lemmy. The final lyrics would talk about the discontent both Osbourne and Lemmy had towards the Catholic Church, with an ultimate wish to be left outside the church's judgments. Lemmy recalled about working on No More Tears. I made more money out of writing those 4 songs for Ozzy than I made out of 15 years of Motorhead. Ludicrous, isn't it? In all, Lemmy wrote 5 songs for Osbourne. The 5th, See You on the Other Side, which appeared on his follow-up record, 1995's Osmosis. During the recording of No More Tears, Ozzy was notorious for setting off stink bombs that were so powerful they could literally clear out entire buildings and not just rooms. He'd let them off everywhere, whether in the studio, on planes, or even in Las Vegas casinos, leaving the rest of the band and the crew gagging and wondering if he'd be able to even finish the album. At first, some even thought that he might have a serious issue because he was so relentless with his pranks. But fed up, Zakk Wylde and drummer Randy Castillo decided to get the revenge. Zakk hid a bag of his own poop in the back of Ozzy's favorite couch, where the Prince of Darkness liked to watch World War II documentaries. Meanwhile, Randy put his own contribution in a Tupperware container and stashed it in the fridge for later. Ozzy eventually discovered the source of the awful smell while trying to relax, realizing that his bandmates had gotten him back for all the chaos he had caused. Despite all these wild antics, it was a wonder that they managed to finish the record at all. Much like the lyrical nature of the album, Ozzy wanted to project a more mature persona, and that included the cover art. He recalled in his book, I Am Ozzy, "The cover is a sepia portrait of me with an angel's wing on my shoulder. The idea was to give the album more of a mature vibe. I mean, I couldn't keep doing the blood out of the mouth thing. It was starting to get hammy." I remember the shoot for the cover in New York very well, actually. Normally it takes about 500 rolls to get a photograph like that in the can, but for No More Tears, it was just click, 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 okay, we've got it, see ya. Released on September 17th, 1991, No More Tears hit stores within a month of Pearl Jam's 10 and Nirvana's Nevermind. It was a testament to the lasting legacy of heavy metal in the face of the surging tide of grunge. It was also issued the same day that Guns N' Roses dropped their epic albums Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. Ozzy was even criticized by some for riding the band's coattails.
In Manhattan, rock star Ozzy Osbourne took advantage of the crowds in record stores last night to promote his new album by shaking hands and signing autographs. He wasn't bothered by comments that he was trying to cash in on Guns N' Roses' popularity.
There's enough room for everyone. I don't care. I mean, good luck to Guns N' Roses, so that they don't need any luck,
The album spawned 4 top 10 hits on the rock charts, including Mama, I'm Coming Home, which peaked at number 2 on the mainstream rock tracks chart, and number 28 on the Hot 100. Mama, I'm Coming Home was the only top 40 hit of Ozzy's solo career. Mama, I'm coming home. The title track, meanwhile, reached number 71 on the Hot 100 chart and number 10 on the mainstream rock tracks chart. Mr. Tinker Train, Time After Time, and Road to Nowhere were issued as promo singles, with them both charting on the mainstream rock tracks chart at number 34, 6, and 3. The album, meanwhile, peaked at number 7 in the States, eventually going quadruple platinum, and it also went double platinum in Canada. Despite all the success and the album being a rebirth for Ozzy, there was still one thing he didn't like about the album. He recalled in I Am Ozzy, "The only thing I didn't like about No More Tears was the video for Mama, I'm Coming Home. It was one of those high-tech, million-dollar jobs, but all I wanted was something simple like the video for Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit. So in the end, I did a second video for $50,000 using the Nirvana camera guy, and it was perfect." Ozzy famously announced at the time that he was retiring from any major tours following the promotion of the album. But following the release of his next record, 1995's Osmosis, he opted to come out of retirement, calling it the Retirement Sucks Tour. Ozzy told Guitar World about No More Tears, "This is the first record I've done sober," adding, "It's one of my favorites." Of course, the record label were geniuses who supported it all along when it became a success. Country singer Carrie Underwood is surprisingly an Ozzy fan, even covering Mama, I'm Coming Home on several occasions.
Yes,
don't you
me
love
too.
Ozzy?
I do. I very much remember like being, a teenager, kind of discovering my own like musical tastes, and my mom being very much against me listening to Ozzy.
Which makes it so cool, right? I mean, that's why you like it.
But I was also like, I feel like you need to listen to some of these lyrics because it's not all like darkness and
Like I'm going to eat a bat's head and all that kind of stuff.
I was like, there's a lot of like love songs and things that are a lot more melodic and sweet. And we had asked, because anytime I'm going to cover somebody, I want their blessing. I would never want somebody to be like, man, I don't like her, so no.
Right.
And it's worse if you like sing the song and then somebody asks them about that and they're like, what was that?
Right.
So I just want to be respectful, and we had asked permission, and Sharon was very, very sweet about it.
I could be wrong. It hurts so bad. It's been so long.
Now, I came across one story that happened in Ozzy's career around this time that was pretty interesting. So a month before No More Tears came out, a guy from England was arrested in St. Louis claiming to have been the son of Ozzy. The man, whose name was Ozzy Osbourne, was arrested for skipping out on the bill at a restaurant and nightclub. Lewis claimed that he was in town to set up dates for a band in which he played and sang. The police and, of course, his lawyer believed the story, with his lawyer telling the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, "Yeah, I believe his story. I don't have proof, blood tests, or anything." The nightclub where he skipped out on the tab was interviewed for the story, who said that they were told that Ozzy Osbourne's son was coming into play and they wanted personal service. When Austin went to pay the bill, he claimed he didn't have his wallet as it was stolen, and the nightclub owner called the police and pressed charges against him. When reached for comment, Ozzy put out a statement that said the man was not in fact his son. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.